Welcome to the Deep Dive, brought to you by the Data Zen community. We're here to help you navigate the complex world of AI and get you the insights you actually need.
And today, we are really diving deep, aren't we, into the sometimes confusing world of large language models, or LLMs.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've been wondering which AI is the best one, we're here to tell you that's maybe not the right question.
Exactly. The goal today isn't to crown one winner. It's more about asking which AI is the best for
Right.
you. Because they're all different tools, really.
Right. We've looked at a ton of material, and the clear message is that different AIs are good for different things. So we're going to break it down, help you find the right tool, whether you're focused on, say, creativity or research, maybe coding, or even just learning faster.
Okay, but before we get into the specific tools, maybe we should just quickly cover the basics. What exactly is a large language model? Just a quick refresher.
Good idea. Let's keep it simple. At its core, an LLM is like a super-powered prediction engine. It's learned from just unbelievable amounts of data, text, code, images from all over the internet, books, you name it.
Trillions of words, literally. And its main job is to spot patterns in all that data, really complex patterns.
And then when you give it a prompt, like a question or instruction, it uses those patterns to predict what word should come next, then the next word, and the next.
It's basically playing a high-stakes game of fill in the blanks, trying to generate the sequence of words that seems most statistically likely based on everything it's seen before.
And that point is so crucial. It's generating the most likely answer, not necessarily the factually correct one. It's all about probability, not truth in the human sense.
Right, which is precisely why we, the humans, are still essential in this loop. These models, they don't have real-world experience, no emotions, no real understanding of ethics. They can't reason like we do.
They're amazing assistants, no doubt, powerful tools. But they absolutely need our judgment, our critical thinking, our oversight. You can't just take their output as gospel.
Okay, well said. So with that foundation laid, let's get into the big players. We should probably start with the two heavyweights, the ones everyone's heard of, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the long context specialists, too.
Sounds good. Let's kick off with the ecosystem giants, ChatGPT and Google Gemini.
Right, ChatGPT from OpenAI. It's hard to overstate its impact. The sources confirm it's the most used LLM out there, something like 600 million active users every week. It basically set the standard when it launched.
Yeah, it really did. I often think of it as the creative king and the coding champ. And there's a reason for that. For anything creative, writing stories, drafting marketing emails, even just brainstorming ideas, its fluency, especially with the GPT-4 model, is just top-notch. It's often seen as the benchmark for that kind of imaginative, human-like text.
And the coding side is huge, too. GPT-4, in particular, gets a lot of praise in the sources for generating pretty clean code, helping debug tricky errors, even explaining complex algorithms really clearly.
How does it get so good at that?
Well, it's trained on vast amounts of code from public repositories, like GitHub. So it has a huge knowledge base of programming patterns and solutions, which gives it that high confidence for developer tasks.
Makes sense. And the ecosystem around it is pretty vast now, isn't it? Custom GPTs, plugins.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially for the paid users, the Plus subscribers. You can create these custom GPTs, tailor them with your own instructions or data. It's like building your own little specialized AI assistant.
And the multimodal stuff, too, using images as input, generating images with DLE3, that's all integrated for Plus users.
It is, but we have to mention the limitations, particularly for free users. You don't get all that power.
Right. The free version usually runs on older models, like GPT 3.5, or maybe a slightly better but still limited one, sometimes called GPT 4.1 mini. They're just not as capable as the paid GPT-4.
And the big one, the knowledge cutoff. This catches people out all the time.
Yeah, unless you specifically tell it to browse the web using Bing search, actually it only knows what it was trained on, which usually stops somewhere in, 2021 or 2022.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So if you ask about current events or recent developments without that browsing enabled, it just doesn't know. Or worse, I might guess.
Yeah, it can confidently make things up, hallucinate if it doesn't have access to current info. You absolutely have to remember to check if browsing is on for anything timely.
Okay, so that's ChatGPT. Now let's switch gears to its main rival, Google Gemini. Used to be called Bard.
Right. Gemini feels like it's built with a different philosophy. It's all about productivity and fitting right into the Google world. Think of it as your research partner inside Google's tools.
That integration is really its superpower, isn't it? It plugs directly into Google Workspace.
Exactly. Docs, Sheets, Gmail, Drive, even Maps and Flights. It acts like Duet AI within those applications.
So you could, like, ask it to summarize a meeting transcript right there in Google Docs, or analyze data in a sheet without exporting anything.
Precisely. Or draft a presentation based on a report you have in Drive. It's designed to be seamless, remove that friction of copying and pasting between different tools.
And it was built to be multimodal from the ground up, handling text, images, audio, video right from the start. That's a bit different from some others where it felt added on later.
Yeah, and crucially, it tackles that knowledge cutoff problem differently. It taps into Google search and Google's knowledge graph in real time.
So it should be much more up-to-date on current information.
Theoretically, yes. If you need today's news or yesterday's market data, Gemini should have a significant edge because it's constantly connected to that live index.
And the performance benchmarks look pretty impressive too. The sources mentioned Gemini Ultra 1.0 actually outperformed human experts on that big MMLU test.
Right, the massive multitask language understanding test. That covers like 57 different subjects. Scoring 90% on that suggests it has really broad reasoning capabilities.
Okay, impressive tech, but this brings us to the privacy question.
It's very much a walled garden. You need a Google account, obviously, and Google is pretty upfront about it. They advise not putting confidential information into Gemini.
Why is that? What happens to the data?
Well, if you leave the default settings, on which most people probably do, your conversations can be stored for up to 3 years. And importantly, human reviewers might read them to help improve the system.
3 years. And human reviewers. That's significant, especially if you're using it for work, dealing with sensitive company data or personal info.
It's a major trade-off, the convenience of that deep integration versus the potential privacy risk. You really need to be aware of those policies and maybe turn off activity logging if you're handling anything sensitive.
Good point. And the pricing for the top-tier Gemini Ultra is quite steep too, right?
Yeah.
Around $275 a month.
Yeah, it's definitely aimed at prosumers or heavy users. It bundles things like huge amounts of storage, like 30 terabytes, and access to their latest features, like the VO video generation model. It's just a serious investment.
Okay, so we have the creative powerhouse in ChatGPT, the integrated productivity partner in Gemini. What about Claude from Anthropic? It seems to carve out its own niche.
It really does. Claude is often seen as maybe the thoughtful, careful one. Anthropic built it with a focus on being helpful, honest, and harmless. That HHH framework.
So the output might feel a bit more measured or cautious sometimes.
Often, yeah. More nuanced, maybe less likely to go off the rails. But its real standout feature, the technical one, is context length. It's incredible.
Right, the context window, how big are we talking?
Up to 200,000 tokens, which translates to roughly 150,000 words. That's like a whole novel.
Wow. So you could feed it an entire book or a massive legal document or a huge chunk of code?
Exactly. You could paste in a whole book manuscript or a super long legal contract or the entire code for a decent-sized project.
And it wouldn't forget the beginning by the time it got to the end. Because that's a problem with shorter context windows.
That's the key advantage. Claude is designed to maintain coherence and track details across that massive input. So you can ask it to summarize the whole thing, or find contradictions between Chapter 1 and Chapter 10, or rewrite a complex section while keeping the overall argument consistent.
So it's ideal for really deep analysis of long, dense material, like legal reviews, summarizing academic papers, maybe code refactoring.
Perfect for that. Complex reasoning on long documents is its sweet spot. And many users say its writing style is very natural, very human-sounding. Less robotic, perhaps.
So there are downsides?
Well, the free tier can feel quite limited. You hit message caps pretty quickly. And the pricing, especially for processing those huge inputs, can get expensive. They charge for the tokens you put in, not just the ones you get out.
So pasting in that 150,000-word document costs you, even if you only ask for a short summary back.
Precisely. If you need that massive context, it's worth it, because nothing else really compares at that scale. But if you're just doing short chats, it might not be the most cost-effective.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've covered the big generalists and the long context specialists. Now, things get maybe even more interesting when we look at tools built for very specific jobs.
Totally agree. This is where we see tools focusing razor sharp on things like research or coding. Let's start with one that tackles the trust issue head on, Perplexity AI.
Perplexity is different, isn't it? It's positioned more as an answer engine than just a chatbot.
Exactly. Its whole identity is built around factual research and citations. It actually uses multiple underlying LLMs like GPT-4, Claude, Gemini Pro, but the magic is how it wraps them.
What does it wrap them in?
An integrated search engine that always provides citations. That's the absolute key.
So when it gives you an answer, it shows you where it got the information from, with links.
Yes, exactly. Inline links directly to the web pages it used. This is huge for trust and verification. It directly addresses that hallucination problem, at least for factual current information. You can check its work.
That sounds incredibly useful for students, researchers, journalists, anyone who needs verifiable facts.
Definitely. And the sources back this up. It scored something like 94% in recent accuracy tests for 2025 data, which is really high. It's designed for reliability.
And it's fast, too, right? Pulls real-time info very quickly.
Yeah, remarkably fast. Average response time is apparently around 1.2 seconds. Because it's actively fetching from current web sources, it's often the quickest way to get an up-to-date, verifiable answer to a factual question.
Okay, so for research, it sounds like a winner. But what's the catch? What doesn't it do well?
Well, it's not really built for open-ended creativity. You can ask it to write a poem or a story because it has access to those underlying creative LLMs, but that's not its default mode.
So the responses tend to be more concise, fact-focused.
Exactly. Think of it as the super efficient, highly accurate librarian, not the imaginative poet. It gives you the facts with sources very quickly. Doesn't really do the storytelling part as naturally as something like ChatGPT.
Right. Okay, so Perplexity for facts. What about tools specifically for developers? We hear a lot about coding assistants.
Yeah, let's look at a couple here. First, DeepSeek R1. This one's interesting because it's an open source model coming from a Chinese company, and it's really focused on coding, math, and logical reasoning.
Open source is a big deal. And competitive pricing.
Hugely competitive. It apparently achieves strong performance, especially in coding, on a much smaller training budget than the giants, which really shook up the API pricing models. It showed high quality was possible without spending billions.
And the open source aspect means you can run it yourself.
That's the crucial part for many organizations. You can download DeepSeek R1 and deploy it on your own servers in your own data center.
Which gives you complete control over data privacy, right? Nothing goes out to a third party.
Exactly. Full data sovereignty. You can fine-tune it on your own proprietary code without worrying about leaks. For companies with strict security or compliance needs, that's massive. And users rate its coding abilities very highly, sometimes on par with Claude or GPT-4o for specific tasks.
Okay, so DeepSeek for the privacy-conscious, potentially cost-effective, self-hosted coding power. What about the more mainstream option, Microsoft Copilot?
Copilot is more the integrated assistant for the masses, especially within the Microsoft world. It basically bundles GPT-4 tech with Bing Search, running on Microsoft's own Prometheus model.
So its strength is that deep integration, similar to Gemini, but for the Microsoft ecosystem.
Right. It works seamlessly inside Microsoft 365 Word, Outlook, Teams, Excel, PowerPoint, and in the Edge browser, too. Plus, GitHub Copilot, its developer-focused sibling, is kind of the industry standard for code auto-completion. It's built on OpenAI's Codex and works across tons of languages.
Does it offer anything special for free users?
One nice perk is free image generation. Unlike the free tier of ChatGPT, Copilot lets you create images without paying.
Good to know. Okay, one more player to touch on. Grok from Elon Musk AI. This one seems designed to be different.
Definitely different. Grok's whole personality is meant to be informal, witty, maybe a bit rebellious or sarcastic sometimes.
And its unique technical advantage.
Real-time access to the X, formerly Twitter, data stream. Direct, unfiltered access.
Ah, so it's plugged right into the live conversation on X.
Exactly, which makes it incredibly fast for understanding what's happening right now on that platform. Summarizing breaking news as it unfolds on X, catching the latest trends, understanding the live sentiment. It's also known for giving more direct, less evasive answers on controversial topics compared to some others.
But that real-time X feed, that's also its weakness, isn't it? X isn't exactly known for rigorously verified information.
That's the double-edged sword. Because the data source is unverified, the reliability of Grok's answers can be questionable. The sources mention tests where it got subtle technical details wrong, like misinterpreting website instructions from robots.txt files, but stated its incorrect answer very confidently.
So great for a quick pulse check on X trends, but maybe not for mission-critical facts.
Probably a fair assessment.
Why?
Plus, you need an X premium subscription to use it, which costs around $8 to $14 a month.
Okay, that's a fascinating range of tools and specialties. It really highlights that initial point. There's no single best. This makes me think, and maybe you listening are thinking this too, which approach do you trust more for getting real answers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you lean towards the tool that meticulously cites every source, like Perplexity, even if its raw creative power is less?
Or do you trust the model with the highest scores on those complex academic benchmarks,
Yeah.
like Gemini Ultra, even with the privacy considerations? It probably depends on your specific needs and risk tolerance at that moment.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've seen the features, the strengths, the weaknesses. How does this translate into practical reality when you actually sit down to use these tools? We need to talk about the hazards, like accuracy and the crucial issue of privacy.
Let's start with the big one, the hallucination hazard. We touched on it, but it's worth emphasizing again. Because LLMs work on probability, they can just make stuff up confidently.
Yeah, they can generate answers that sound perfectly plausible, grammatically correct, even cite fake sources sometimes is a huge pitfall.
The sources gave a really stark example with that Hillary Clinton 45th president test. The idea is you feed the AI a question containing a clear factual error and see if it corrects it or just runs with a false premise.
And the results were worrying, weren't they? Some top models struggled.
They did. Copilot apparently failed, confirming the incorrect statement about Clinton being the 45th president, even with extra context. And maybe more surprisingly, Perplexity also failed in that specific test.
Perplexity failed, but it's the citation one.
Yeah, the theory was it might have prioritized finding some web source mentioning the false claim, maybe in a discussion about the false claim, over its own internal knowledge base or common sense. It shows how complex the interactions are.
Who passed the test?
ChatGPT, specifically the GPT-4 version, reportedly handled it correctly, identifying and correcting the mistake.
So even the best models aren't consistent on this basic fact-checking.
It seems not, or at least not always. It really underscores that you simply cannot blindly trust the output. The model's confidence level means nothing about its factual accuracy. It's all down to the statistical patterns it finds in response to your prompt.
So the absolute takeaway is fact-check everything important that an AI tells you, especially for history, science, legal stuff, anything where accuracy really matters. Assume it might be wrong until verified.
Could agree more. Okay, let's talk about data privacy again. This is where the free versus paid difference often comes into play and where proprietary versus open source really matters.
Yeah, the convenience of these tools often comes at a hidden cost, right? Your data.
We mentioned Gemini storing conversations for up to 3 years and using human reviewers if activity logging is on. That's Google's explicit policy for improving the system.
And Claude's policy.
Anthropic is also quite clear. They state they will collect private data if you enter it in passwords, API keys, whatever. And if you opt in to let them use your data for model training, they might keep it for up to 5 years.
5 years. Wow. That highlights the long-term implications of pasting sensitive information into these chat windows.
It really does. And this is precisely why options like self-hosting DeepSeek are so appealing for businesses or anyone highly concerned about privacy.
Because the data never leaves your control.
Exactly. You run it on your own infrastructure, no third-party access, full compliance with your own security rules. You just can't get that level of assurance with the standard consumer versions of ChatGPT or Gemini.
So the rule of thumb for listeners should be
incredibly careful. Assume anything you type into a free or standard consumer chatbot could potentially be seen by humans or used for training. Unless the service explicitly guarantees, usually in a paid enterprise tier, that your data is private and won't be used for training, just don't paste sensitive personal or corporate information into it.
simple advice, but critical. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Let's try to pull it all together. Back to our core mission, helping you choose the right tool based on your goal. We need that simplified matrix.
All right, let's nail it down. No single best, just the best for the task.
Okay, here we go. Based on everything we've discussed, if your main goal is creativity, writing high-quality text, brainstorming, or you need really strong general-purpose coding help, your go-to is probably ChatGPT, especially the paid GPT-4 version.
Agreed. Now, if your priority is research where you need verified facts, solid citations, and you want to see the sources, the clear choice is Perplexity AI, built for trust.
Okay, if your goal is boosting your productivity by integrating AI directly into your existing workflow within Google Workspace, Docs, Sheets, Gmail, etc., then Gemini is designed precisely for that.
And for that very specific but powerful use case, analyzing or summarizing incredibly long documents, think entire books, massive reports, huge code bases over, say, 100,000 words, then Claude's giant context window makes it the specialist tool.
And finally, if you need quick summaries of real-time social media buzz, what's trending on X right now, or maybe just a more informal, edgy AI personality, then Grok could be worth exploring, keeping the reliability caveats in mind.
That covers the main players. And it really forces a choice, doesn't it? We asked this earlier, but it's worth repeating for you listening. What's the better strategy? Sticking with one powerful AI that does most things pretty well, even if it's not perfect everywhere.
Or becoming proficient with several specialized tools and switching between them depending on the task. The data suggests most people are already doing the latter. What was that stat?
Over 85% of users apparently use at least 2 different AI bots each week. That strongly suggests people are finding value in using the right tool for the right job.
That 85% figure is really telling. It implies the secret isn't finding the mythical one perfect AI, but learning how to effectively combine the strengths of different tools.
Exactly. Let's talk about how people are actually doing that in practice, combining tools for better results.
Okay, give us an example workflow, maybe for a student or researcher writing a paper.
Sure. They might start with Perplexity AI. Ask it something like, find the latest studies on topic with citations. Get those core verifiable facts and source links.
Right, lay the factual foundation first. Then what?
Then, they take that verified information and paste it into ChatGPT. The prompt might be, based on these findings, create an outline for an academic essay, suggest a title, and draft an introduction. Use ChatGPT for its strength in structuring and writing fluently.
Okay, makes sense. Leverage each tool's strength. What if they also needed to analyze a really long government report as part of their research?
That's where Claude comes in. They'd feed that specific long document into Claude and ask it to, say, summarize the key policy recommendations in this 200-page report and identify potential contradictions. Claude handles the massive text analysis.
So Perplexity for facts, ChatGPT for drafting, Claude for long doc analysis, a multi-tool approach.
Precisely. Or think about a marketing team reacting to a fast-moving trend.
How would they use different tools?
They might start with Grok to get an instant read on the conversation on X. What's the sentiment around this breaking news? What are the key themes people are discussing? Get that immediate real-time hook.
Okay, get the pulse from Grok.
Jump straight to ChatGPT with those themes. Generate 5 social media post variations based on these trending sentiments, using a witty tone. Leverage ChatGPT's creative writing power for the actual campaign copy.
And finally,
Use Gemini to manage the whole process within their Google Workspace. Draft the campaign brief in Docs, track engagement metrics in Sheets, coordinate team tasks in Chat or Meet. Keep everything flowing smoothly in their existing ecosystem.
that paints a really clear picture. It's about picking the right specialist for each stage of the task. You wouldn't ask Perplexity to generate campaign slogans, and you wouldn't rely on Gemini for maximum privacy if you could self-host DeepSeek.
Exactly. The best tool is entirely context-dependent, and this whole landscape is moving incredibly fast.
Oh, unbelievably fast. Models are constantly being updated. We hear about Gemini 2.5 Pro experiments, Perplexity building new browsers like Comet, OpenAI likely working on GPT 4.5 or GPT-5.
The core capabilities, real-time data access, huge context windows, better reasoning, they seem to be converging, getting integrated into more powerful single platforms.
Yeah, but maybe the way we interact is changing too. It's not just about the chat window anymore, is it?
That's a really interesting point. We're seeing the early stages of specialized AI agents. Things like the Perplexity Assistant being able to control phone functions, or those experimental ChatGPT agents that can perform multi-step actions online for you.
Like researching and booking a flight automatically when the price hits a certain point, that kind of thing?
Exactly. Performing complex tasks across different apps and websites autonomously based on your goals.
So the future might be less about us actively chatting with one AI and more about a network of these agents working proactively in the background for us.
It certainly looks like a possible direction.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads us to, I think, a really crucial final thought for everyone listening.
Go on.
If these AI agents become more autonomous, more capable of managing our calendars, booking travel, handling email, interacting with our apps, all driven by these complex, probabilistic engines we've been discussing, how much control are we, as individuals and as a society, willing to hand over?
That's the big question, isn't it? How much autonomy do we give these agents in return for that ultimate convenience, that hands-off efficiency they promise? Especially given they can still make mistakes or hallucinate.
It's a profound trade-off, and one we'll likely be grappling with more and more as this technology matures.
Definitely something to think about. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us.
If you want to dig even deeper, you can read the full article. It has comparison tables, links to all the tools, more detailed breakdowns. It's all over at datazen.top.
Yeah, please check it out at datazen.top. And if you found this discussion helpful, we'd really appreciate it if you click the little heart note icon under the article there. It helps us know what resonates and supports the Data Zen community's work.
And of course, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, so you don't miss our next weekly deep dive from the Data Zen community.
Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you next time.